All right, so the last example was about doing a whole body, right, proportion wise. Let's talk a little bit about if you were doing like a head. So there's actually some proportions for drawing heads a little bit. We'll do a head from the side, and then we'll do like a face. And there's some proportions for heads and faces for humans. So let's start with a side head. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a square like this. Maybe make the line a little thinner like that. And I'm going to divide it into 4 equal quadrants, give or take. Okay. All right, I'm going to just do that. So the way this kind of works is if you're looking from the side, um, your ear, the ear, like I can't, my ear, the ear would start a little bit above where the X meets or the cross meets, and then come a little bit down, but kind of about kind of the middle of the page. So in this case, let me put it on a separate layer here, but the ear, let me once again kind of resize this. Something like that, give or take. Okay. Keep in mind that the ears kind of point a little bit back. Okay. The eye is a little bit above, about on the line here. The nose starts about the same level as the eye. You know, the head kind of comes back all the way, but then kind of comes in a little bit. Obviously, if they have hair, that's a little different, but you got to imagine they're kind of bald like me here. And then the chin kind of comes in and then kind of goes out a little. Okay. So what would that mean here? So I'm just going to turn off my references here. And actually, the nose comes a little bit beyond the square. But the eye would come about, I think I started drawing. The eye is about, the ear is probably a little high there, but the eye would be about there. And then the nose is going to kind of start. Okay. And then the mouth is about there. I kind of want to play around. It's a little bit flat on top, but it gives you kind of an idea. You can kind of look at the reference here. Ear might be a little too high on the top. So it comes in, boom, kind of jaws in. Yeah, I might actually move the ear. It might be a little high, so let's move that down slightly. The head looks a little long, so actually I might even, there you go, kind of like that. These are all just references. It can be a little bit like that. Okay. Now that's like the base head. You come in and use kind of the lip there. So obviously, if we're going to add hair, it's like this is where the ear is actually probably a little bit too big. Let me shrink it down slightly. That's probably more realistic. And kind of use it as a reference points. It's like if they had sideburns, that comes like there. Hairline would come roughly like there. Obviously, they have a beard that comes down here, depending on what kind of hair they have. Let's say it's kind of squiggly, right? So, it's a good starting place. Obviously, you can go back and kind of make this whatever kind of hair you're going for on this character. Maybe they got, something like that. I'd probably tidy it up. It still seems a little bit too, chin's a little bit off. This should come in through, but I might tidy this up. The more you do this, the more you'll sort of feel comfortable with looking at the proportions. All right, so that's kind of a side face there. Like I said, you kind of start and then it's like, okay, then you kind of go in and kind of tidy up the hair. Okay. All right, let's talk about, so that's head side. Let's say we were doing a head straight on. So once again, it is kind of like a box or it's a rectangle. Okay. So there's like this rectangle here. Let me make a new layer. Oops, too big. And once again, the proportions are kind of, you have this cross. The nose is about here. This is about the tips of the ears, give or take. And then, the chin is about here. The eyes are about a little bit above. So if I was gonna kind of do my own, oops, that's not cool. This line's a little off. Oops. So if I was to take this and I'm just gonna draw a little bit. The heads are kind of an oval, although the top of it is a little bit bigger. Think of it kind of like an egg, except it's an upside down egg. So normally an egg, the top is a little bit thinner than the bottom. It's like that, but in reverse, where typically the head is a little bit bigger than. So anyway, let me turn that off. So All right, so this is about where the nose is. These are the eyes. If you look at it, your ear kind of starts at the bottom of the eyes. So like these are the eyes. Okay. Then the nose starts right below it. The ears, if you look straight on, your ears should be about, the tip of it where it comes back in should be about the level of your eye. So if this is the tip of the eye, the ear should be kind of, that should be the very top. So like this is the top of the ear or the eye. So it'd be kind of like that. Okay. Once again, this is like without hair. So if you're going to add hair, that's going to change things. But, you get kind of an idea. You should decide whether the person has more of a rounded jaw or a square jaw. I'm going to make this person kind of more of a flat jaw. They're a little bit fatter. This would come, more like that, basically. Okay. Now that we've talked kind of about that, so you can see how this kind of plays out with, you can talk a little more about the reference to the eyes, to the nose, to the mouth. Okay. So we talked about kind of like a head is 8 heads high or 7.5 heads high. We talked about how typically your shoulder about 2 heads wide, give or take. Typically the way it works is that your head is about 5 eyes wide, not including your ears. So this width is 1, 2, there's about 1 eye width between eyes, and then 4, and then 5. Okay. So I'm going to come back to these and kind of line these up a little better. So, you know, if I could try to draw this out. I'm just going to draw these and I'll resize them in a second. Okay. So these are a little bit big. So, let me figure this out. So let me use a different color. That does not look, that looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 3.5. So that's too big. So let's try shrinking that down. So I'm going to take this guy. Let's just use free transform. That looks a little better. I'll move it a smidge. Okay. And now when I draw this, that looks pretty good. 1, 2, still a little big. That's like a half, and that's a half. So maybe even a little bit smaller. If you want this is if you want human proportions. If remember that it doesn't have to have human proportions, especially, obviously anime characters have huge eyes, right? So, it doesn't have to be this. I'm just kind of saying if you want it to look kind of more human, like kind of the way humans really are, that's the way you would do it. So I'm gonna put this, there should be about 1 eye width apart. So kind of like that. I'm gonna flip this. Okay. So there you go. And then, so in between, the nose starts and there's kind of this triangle. And I'm literally going to draw a triangle out from here. So it's kind of a isosceles triangle, which means it's even, but it's not an equilateral. And I'm just going to draw kind of like this line here. And what this is that this bottom is where, so the nose would fall along this, and then the mouth, the tips of the mouth would be at the bottom of this triangle. Okay. So I'm kind of using this as a reference. And then there's also kind of this other secondary triangle, which is the idea that from the nostrils, the chin kind of comes from another equilateral triangle. So I might tidy this up a little bit. It's also where sort of, the two tips of here are. Okay. So I'm just kind of using this as a reference. So I might come in here. Just kind of tidy this up a little bit. All right. And so let's say I start doing the mouth, notice how the tips of the mouth come right to the edges there. The ends of the nostrils should be right on that sort of equilateral triangle. All right, let's turn that off. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Now, obviously, that's just the head by itself. So I would want to come in and do some additional work. So, you probably want to come in and do kind of like these little tidbits here. There's usually like that little bit underneath the nose, and you can start doing chin. And so this is like, um, you might want to come in. So it's like, okay, here's hair. Usually your neck is about a little bit inward from where the the ear matches up with the chin. So it's like, here's like the neck. So I don't know, maybe he's got kind of curly hair, something like that. Okay. All right, so that's, just doing proportions. If you want to do like a close-up of the face and want to make sure that the proportions feel at least normal to a human. Now, obviously, if you don't, you could have the eyes be much bigger. They're not going to feel human. They're going to feel very off. So I'm going to deliberately delete these eyes and give this guy much bigger eyes, which is fine from a character design point of view, but it's not going to, it's going to feel definitely very exaggerated because it is exaggerated. That's the point. I'm exaggerating, the eyes here, right? Maybe not quite like that. Maybe more like, let's get rid of that. I don't like that. It also feels a little off because I should make these lines a little thicker. No, maybe not quite that thick, but you get kind of the idea. This is where thickness of line can come into handy. Okay. So I want you guys to try that out. Try, drawing the head and see how that works for you.